Hey y'all, how you doing? It's me, Geraldine, the entrepreneur guide, web and SEO expert. And today I'm talking about what it takes to go from a blue collar mentality where you do everything yourself to a white collar mentality where you're managing and overseeing the process. So before we move on, I definitely want to define the differences between blue collar work and white collar work. So if you think about blue collar work, it's all about getting your hands dirty, being the person to accomplish everything, working really long hours and doing whatever it takes to accomplish the task at hand. Usually in this type of work, you rely on yourself and you don't really collaborate with others to get the job done. You might have a team structure, but you're still there grinding with your teammates if you do have teammates. In a white collar mentality, it's all about thinking, using your brain to accomplish whatever it is in front of you. So white collar mentality will think about time management. They'll think about the ultimate vision and goal. And usually they have specialized knowledge around what is being accomplished. My personal belief is that one isn't better than the other. They just have different ways of being. And what's most important, especially if you are a business owner looking to shift from one to the other or vice versa, is that you have to think about your long-term goals, your values, and what stage you are in your life and your business. So let me give an example. In my personal journey, I used to be a worker bee. I used to be a person that wanted to be really hands-on in the creation of things in my business. And for those of you who aren't familiar with what I do or who I am, I traditionally have been an online vinyl record dealer, a restaurant owner, and also a web developer. And all three of those things were very labor intensive. So I was working from morning all the way through the night to get things done oftentimes, even though in certain portions of my business journey, I had a team. And it wasn't until I met one of my former business partners, Lauren Mesmer, that I started to really see the benefits of developing systems and process in order to be able to accomplish more, charge more money, and also do less work. So as I began to get older, I started to see that it was taxing for me to do everything in my business, to be the person to make corrections of other people's work, to do all the decision making, to project manage, which, if quite frankly, I wasn't that great at. And it wasn't until then that I started to kind of shift my mentality and start getting really great at task delegation, being okay with spending the countless hours that it really takes to develop system and process amongst a team of collaborators. So to answer the question, how do you shift from a blue collar mentality to a white collar mentality? What you have to do is think about your values and where you're going. So if you're someone who loves to be there doing the work, but you're also somebody who's really visionary, what you want to do is think about your energy levels, what could be possible if you had a team and operated differently, and then go from there. In my personal journey, I've learned that it takes a few things to generate success. And they're my three pillars. And I actually have a podcast related to this. It takes willingness, commitment, and communication. So the first thing you have to do, aside from understanding what your values are and where you want to go, is are you willing to change? Naturally, as people, you don't even have to be a business owner, but as people, we don't like change. And once you are willing to shift and change, that's your first step. Two, you have to commit to what it takes to shift from being a do-it-yourselfer to a collaborator. Look at, for your own personal business, what does that mean for you? Does it mean taking baby steps because you're not that great delegating or managing? Does it mean getting a virtual assistant and working with them 5 hours per month or per week? Or does that mean hiring a teammate and making mistakes? Because when you first start delegating to your teammates, a lot of times what happens is that you delegate something, you think you're as clear as you can be, and they come back to you and they deliver something that's incorrect, not what you expect expected, or they're confused and they have a whole bunch of questions. Now that can be frustrating, especially in the beginning, because we have all these judgments about ourselves. We think we develop communication that's perfect. Actually, it wasn't, because people interpret things differently than we do. So you have to be okay with that first change. You have to be okay to master delegation and management. It takes trial and error, which is where my third pillar, communication, comes into play. You have to be willing to develop the type of communication that it takes to make sure every task that you're delegating, every point that you're looking to get across lands for the other person. And it's just a cycle that you repeat over and over and over again. In your entrepreneurship journey, you'll have a lot of challenges, and a lot of them will have to do with people. They'll have to do with your clients, your teammates, and vendors that you hire. And it's going to take willingness, commitment, and communication for you to work through those. And when it comes to shifting from blue collar to white collar, or having a mix of those two mentalities, I don't have an answer. I don't know what that looks like for you, but it's really important for you to visualize and think about what that is, and then make that shift into moving into a place of being a really great manager or leader. And just knowing that oftentimes it takes baby steps and having a lot of patience and grace within yourself to be the best leader that you can be. So I hope that answered your questions. And if you do have more questions, leave a comment down below. And that is how you shift from a blue collar mentality to white collar, or somewhere in between. It's me, Geraldine, the Entrepreneur Guide web and SEO expert, and I'll talk to you later.